you is, do you know your purpose? What is your purpose? What drives you? I would offer to you there are three interwoven themes that impact and shape our lives: leadership, purpose, and perspective. Each of these concepts collectively, together, create synergy and importance and strength. They have to work together to create greatness. And so I will offer to you tonight a couple of strategies related to these terms that I suggest can impact your life and the lives of others. I'm going to need a little bit of audience participation here, and I'm dating myself. Does anybody here recognize these pictures? So where are these pictures from? MASH. Okay, do you recognize any of these characters? You see, so name some of these characters. Hawk, okay, and Leonard, okay. So what do you remember about this show? Funny, yeah, it was funny. Okay, good. Yes, it did. Yes, absolutely. So this show, believe it or not, would you believe it? It actually inspired me. It was one of the things along my journey that inspired me to come to understand and know my purpose. So this show was called MASH. And my father and my mother and my two siblings, we used to watch reruns. And by the way, this show was established in 1972, right on the tail end of the Vietnam War. This show, as I recall, sitting and watching reruns, back then as a middle school kid, I could remember viscerally feeling like I could be there in that moment, that I could be a part of something greater and bigger, meaning be a part of this army, this revolution of supporting our country. And as a middle school kid, I didn't really have the words to really understand what I was feeling, but I knew in the pit of my stomach that there was something bigger and greater for myself: purpose. My parents, so blessed to have my parents with me today, they are veterans. They were the first and are the first individuals who modeled to me and my siblings what it means to be and to understand what service above self is. Back to this story here in the series, along with my parents and their demonstration of the act of service, which is the greatest act of service, is to give yourself to our country. This show inspired me to want to become a doctor, a medical doctor. Years later, no, I didn't become a medical doctor. I became, what, honey? A PhD, right? But nevertheless, I still became a doctor. This show planted a seed in me that, again, as I stated earlier, something bigger and greater: purpose. So as I reflect on my journey throughout middle school, high school, adulthood, I realized even back then and even now, my purpose was rooted in the underdog, helping the underserved, helping the individual who needs an advocate or a voice, the united way. So as I reflect on everything that I've done up until this point, guess what, folks? The data points connect to my purpose. All of the volunteer work that I've been involved with, the underdog. I'll turn to the first concept that I mentioned earlier: leadership. Leadership is not about a position. It's not about telling someone what to do. It's about leading with integrity. It's about inspiring others to want to do more and want to do things that are beyond themselves. Leadership is about doing the hard things when the tough gets going. Leadership is about inspiring others to want to be above, to do more, to be put self below others, right? To want to be a servant leader. In college, I had the incredible opportunity as a sophomore to meet an iconic servant leader. Does anyone recognize this gentleman here? Who can? Desmond Tutu. I had long hair back then. So Desmond Tutu, if you're not familiar with this incredible servant leader, he led a life of service and serving others. He also led a life and modeled what it means to be a leader who's not about, again, self, but to make an impact on the community, locally, but also the global stage. A servant leader who cares about the underdog, right? Who cares about the community. A leader who put community above self. Purpose. Purpose. Honey, I made this one. What do you say? Nothing? Okay. Without purpose, you don't have an anchor. You cannot lead. As I mentioned earlier, there were moments along my journey, meeting Desmond Tutu, servant leader, my parents in the role model that they've exhibited over the course of my lifetime in terms of service above self. Motherhood is something that is profoundly, it changes your perspective. I knew, as I said early on, that there was something bigger and greater, my purpose. I knew that the reason why the good Lord placed me in this world was to serve others. When this child came into being, and you said, yes, my child had that fingered hand too. Yes, yes. She fortified my understanding for my existence and my purpose. I knew I had to continue to model, as my parents have done, as other leaders have shown me throughout the course of my journey. Modeling what it means to lead, to lead not because you're trying to gain something from that leadership opportunity, but you're leading to inspire others to want something greater than themselves. I have had an incredible journey in raising this bold, along with my husband, I'll give you some credit, sweetie. This bold 18-year-old who, gosh darn it, she challenges me, right, Peyton? Yeah. She challenges me every day. But she challenges me in a way where she has said, Mommy, I want you to live your life. You've poured into me. You've demonstrated to me what leadership means. Now it's time for you to live your purpose. Continue to live your purpose. Honey, thank you. Perspective. Leadership undergirds what we do. Perspective gives us the meaning and guidance in sort of the direction in which we want to lead. Perspective is the lens through which we see the world. We've heard a little bit about this notion of point, right? Okay, so my colleague talked about pointing and pivoting. Perspective is an opportunity for us to ask ourselves, is there something that we've experienced that would, would require us to think differently? Is there a perspective that we have held so strongly that perhaps we've overlooked an alternative viewpoint that could have opened our eyes to something new? A wise friend of mine who was inspired by a recent talk that I had given about the importance of traveling overseas, and how traveling overseas can impact your perspective and even change your perspective on life. And this wise friend shared this three-point framework, if you will, a 3P framework, which undergirds how we strengthen our perspective. And the first area he offered, he said, remember, what's the point? Don't miss the point. So we're going through life trying to reach all of these goals. We're trying to figure out what is our purpose. We're trying to do all of these things to reach multiple goals, and we miss those moments where a conversation occurs. There's someone who needs your support, and you miss that moment to lend that hand because you're so focused on you. So you miss that point to where there was an opportunity to be intentional in pivoting. To pivot intentionally, to focus on that moment, that point, to where you could have changed a life, to where you could have changed a community, or perhaps more importantly, you could have changed something within you. Let's say you choose to pivot intentionally. You take that time to reflect on those moments that matter. You then gain a renewed and strengthened perspective and resolve. Leaders who focus on reflecting, who are focused on not themselves necessarily, but who are looking for something bigger and greater, who seek to have an impact on others, who seek to influence lives, who value perspective, also value diversity of thought. They'll value those middle school conversations. They will value opinions that may differ from theirs. And they'll challenge themselves to deepen relationships. So I challenge each of you as you leave here tonight, as you think about what is your purpose, ask yourself, how can you lean into that purpose? What can you do as a leader to inspire others to achieve or to strive for greatness that's beyond themselves? And I also challenge you to ask yourself, are you living or are you existing? Let that sink in. Are you living or are you just existing? Leadership, purpose, and perspective collectively can create synergy and can create change. Thank you.